All right, drawing hands. Here we go. So let's start out talking about some flat shapes. So the shape that I like, the first shape that I like to talk about with drawing hands is a triangle. And I like to think of it like this or like this. Okay, so this gives you this hand and it gives you this hand. Okay, the triangle overlapping, the little triangle overlapping, you see the thumb muscle right here, the way that it overlaps the palm of your hand. Okay, so this one, the lower one insinuates that overlap. The upper one insinuates this, the way that the palm of this shape here overlaps the thumb. All right. So this is open to all kinds of development. You know, you don't have to stick with that shape. That's a shape that I find it works pretty well, and the triangle is a cool shape. And if I'm drawing a body, if I go like this, and I just go, I like the idea of placing the hands before I place the arms, okay? But if I just go like this, see how I'm being able to like storytell with the hands really fast? Like I'm being able to get a gesture in here. I could be like, and I can connect the arms, how, you know. So this gives me a certain amount of gestural control of this character right off. And I feel like the hands are, I feel like using the triangle, because if you look at my hand like this, you see how it is kind of a triangle. You see how going from here to there is really kind of a triangle. I know that if you think of the hand like this, it really doesn't feel like a triangle. But you could do this. You could go like, and then that starts to bring on another topic for us, which is grouping of the digits, right? So if you go like this, and you go, this is kind of that gesture, okay? And you can just go, that's like that gesture. You could go, this gesture, okay? So we gain some gestural control. So we can flip the hand, we can do all of these moves in a sketch, and we can do this too. So you could have, so we've got about like 15 different hand moves that we could do right now. Could you guys take a half a second and practice making your diagram look good? You see how I'm just like trying to get my diagram to look just a little bit better? I think that this is cool. Like if you have, so here's a triangle. And I think that this is cool if you just do this. Like any one of these edges of the triangle, if you replace with a this. Right? I think that it adds a sort of dynamic quality. Obviously, you could go like, and it starts to become a really interesting shape. You know, you can, this is kind of a triangle put together with a circle. Like if you start bringing in some circle dynamics into your triangle, it can become really interesting. You could take a triangle and this is a square augmented with the dynamics of a triangle and a little bit the dynamics of a circle, right? So this is like about 80% square. It's about like, you know, I don't know, 20, it's probably like 15% triangle and probably 5% circle, right? You see how that's working? When you can't really say like what it is, it has a tendency to not look so good. When you're kind of like, it's kind of a, I don't know, you can't figure it out. It has a tendency to not look like it came from, I think, something that we're drawn to in art. And it's like performance. It's like when someone achieves intention, you know, like, so someone who sinks a shot, you know, from way out, you're like, they meant to do that. And there's something beautiful about having meant to do something and achieved it, you know, like it's like hitting your mark. So when the shape, when you can't see what a person meant to do, you know, the shapes are, I think it makes them look non-intentional. It makes them not pretty. So if we work to give our shapes intention, I think that our drawing will just get to be better and better. Okay, so let's get a little bit more specific with hand shapes. So let's talk about some measurement. So if you take a halfway, and notice how I kind of missed my halfway. Halfway is the palm of the hand as opposed to the fingers, okay? The fingers, we could go, let's divide them in the middle, and then we'll divide in the middle, and then we'll divide in the middle, all right? Do you see how that looks wrong? You see how that just like kind of intuitively looks wrong? Let's do that again. Okay, a little bit better. I'm going to start out dividing in the middle. Now I'm going to do this. I want to say, okay, I want to take this and I want to move it this way just a little bit, my middle division. Now I want to take these guys, and here's the middle division for those guys. I want to do this. I want to go a little bit that way. Now this, instead of dividing in the middle, I'm going to go a little bit that way. Talk to you soon, Owen. See how that looks better? That's more real, right? Like this finger is bigger than this finger, and these two fingers are about the same size, and that one's the smallest. So that's kind of cool. Like, that's kind of a design lesson, all right? Like, that's like we should be learning design from nature. That's kind of a design lesson. It looks better than that. Like, a musical scale is not 8 equal intervals, right? It's a series of steps and half steps, and it makes what we consider beauty. Okay, so let's look for the modulations. Let's study for modulations. Okay, so it's a little bigger and it's going smaller. Now here's another thing that happens. It has a tendency. It's augmented by a circle in several ways. So you have this, and it goes like this. Okay. So this is the wrist up here. This is the palm of this is the base of the hand, the palm of the hand, okay? This is the fingers. The fingers are a little bit. And the thumb is like a triangle that sits here. It comes from here like that, kind of like that. And you could think like these knuckles come across and find the thumb. This shape here, if you go like one thing that we do to design shapes, to get shapes to have more beauty is, okay, so if you start out like this, and then you move from there to here, and then, so that's more realistic, okay? And what's happening is the middle knuckle goes like this. Middle finger is there. This is here. This is here. This is here. Okay? Let's continue to practice a nice triangle over there. Okay? There's another thing that's really cool on a hand is right here. So we have the wrist right here. And it's in a rhythm with this, and it's in a rhythm with this, and it's in a rhythm with that, right? We were establishing that down here. Right here, the hand tends over this way. It tends to sit like this. Have you guys noticed that? Like if you look here, you see this bump, and then you see this big distance over there. It's like the hand almost sits like flat on this side, but over on this side, it really kicks out before you get to, like, if you look at the distance from there to my wrist, whereas if you look at the distance from there to my wrist, right? So the hand is like, so the arm is coming out like this. And the hand, when I start to flat shape it in, it's kind of like that. And then there's also even like this moment like that. So I want you to take a second and look at the hand, look at right now the hand that you're doing. And I want you to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are your flat shapes? Like, if you look at your flat shapes, like, think of it about, like, you could assess your own handwriting, right? Think of your flat shapes right now. How are they? If you're like, there's a real chance that at the end of class, when I come around and I look at your drawings, there's a real chance that the thing that I'm going to want for you to focus on most is the flat shapes. Okay? I mean, this becomes a pretty nice hand, right? Like, it's an okay hand. Let's see. In terms of flat shapes, there are just a few more things that I can give you. So one thing is the fingers kind of have spaces between them. Oh, I made them way too long. All right. Another thing is in terms of the knuckles, like, these knuckles line up along this arc, and these knuckles line up along this arc, and then the ends of the fingers line up along that arc. These knuckles line up along an arc. Okay. The wrist, there's an arc. The tendons that sit on the top of your hand, they follow that arc. They're like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this one shoots over like that, 5. On the top of the hand, the knuckle can be thought of like a little bit. You could almost think about it as a repetition of the hand shape. Like, it would be very stylish of you to think of the knuckle like a little bit like that. Another thing that's cool, and we can start to, so I can't go any further in flat shapes. This is everything I know flat shape wise, okay? Now I have to start to move into 3D shapes. And our 3D shapes, what I'll do in our 3D shapes is there are generalizations that we work from, and then the generalizations become more and more specific, okay? Some of the there's some easy moves I want to try to I'll try to give you here's an easy move with a hand like this. So here's a first easy trick for some hand volume. Notice this. Notice that, okay, if I take my fist and I go like this, take your fist, make a fist, and go like this. You see this length? Okay, that's the length of from here to there, right? Like if we were measuring that length, it's like this. Right? Now, if I take and I put my hand down on the paper, you see where I'm measuring from? But look at this. Like our fingers are kind of webbed, right? And if you look at your fingers up here, you see how long they are? Like if I take my finger here and I measure the length of it, now watch. Like you can see it's this long, right? Now, if I flip my hand over, look at how much shorter my finger is on the bottom. So here's a hack. If I go like this, and you see how that is related to this? See how that is a diagramming skill, right? I could just be like, and I'm starting to give the hand. So this is the first hand on this page that has a volume move. And you see how the volume is established by a diagramming skill. Let's talk about fingers. Okay. So the finger, we can think of the finger inside of Okay, so the finger has it has a modulation. It goes half, and then half of this size, and then half of this size. Okay. The finger has another, if you're looking at the hand like this, okay, when you're looking down at a finger from the top, it has this. When you're looking at the finger from the side, it has this. The finger is a combination of this and this. So when we're looking to diagram the finger, it's a combination of this, and then notice how the fingers, individual fingers, have a tendency to like taper, how they start wide and then they become small. And so the taper is a province of a triangle, right? So it's a little bit. Can we see how to think about the finger in these specific ways? The palm of the hand right there, this part of the hand, the base of the hand, a lot of times is thought about like this. All right, so with like a cube, it becomes like a way for us to start to think about it. But you'll find that what's going on with the palm of the hand is that if this is the wrist side, that it's shaped more like this. And it's shaped more like this. So it's like this. You see the concave quality here, and then it actually has a convex quality here. Like if I take these fingers will become cross contour lines, and if I watch as I apply these fingers to the top of my hand, it rounds over this way, it rounds in this way. So the shape is like here I'm drawing it flat. We conceive of it as a cube, but in actuality, if we're going to come a little bit closer to it, we're going to be thinking of it more like this. Like we could introduce some of that. Like you could be like, okay, look at it. The hand it's kind of got that going on. See how that starts to introduce perspective, right? I can look at the hand. I can look dead into the hand. I could be like, okay. See how I'm like starting to conceive of the base of a hand that I'm looking straight into? That's like somebody pointing their hand right at you. You're like, okay, that it starts to solve that part of it. You could add to that and we're starting to see a hand coming towards us. So see how we're conceiving of the thumb? It's this like triangle part added to it. So here, there's this triangle part added to it. It's coming off. I'm a little breaking away from my total simplification here. But you see that bone, right? That bone, that right here, that's this. Okay? These are metacarpals, and they radiate around. So you have underneath, you have these wrist bones, which go like this. Okay? And what happens is, off of this radiation, you see that radiation? You have this bone which goes it ends here and it goes this way. And there's another one that ends here and it goes this way. And there's another one that ends here and it goes this way. And then this one and it goes that way. And then there's one right here and it goes this way. Okay? And it's shorter. And you get this. I'm trying to make it work in a simple shape, but it's a little bit, it turns out to be a little bit forced. So you see, you remember how earlier on in class I was talking about you remember a shape, that we remember the shapes of the constellations, right? Like when we remember, we have a mnemonic to remember the shapes of the constellations. So if we take this idea of here's a shape, basic arrow. But let's consider this a mnemonic. In order to make this a hand, this guy has to come over. And this guy goes in like this. And this guy comes over like this. So when Bridgman describes a hand, he describes it as a scoop or a wedge. But this is a beautiful shape, right? Like that shape now I've got, it's like a really, compare the quality of this shape with the quality of that shape. This is a much more human shape. And it's just a beginning. You know, every one of those lines is open for deep understanding, okay? Every single one of those lines and style. But practice it. Be like, okay, here, 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 over, back, out, through. That S, that C line is completely cool. You guys get what I mean by a C line? That's a C, that's a C, that's a flat, that's a flat, that's a flat. Okay, and from here, the thumb comes out. Okay, so the thumb is super weird. The thumb is, so here we're like, here we have 1, 2, 3 parts. Okay, the thumb has 1, 2 parts. Same as your big toe. Your big toe only has 2 parts. Thumb and a big toe just have 2 parts. Okay, and so the thumb is like, there's a part that goes, so you connect like this, and the bone goes here. Here the bone goes out, and it makes this little bow tie shape, which connects in with this other little guy, and it goes like that. The same little bow tie shape connects in with this other little guy, and it goes like this, right? Whereas your thumb, it comes out in this little, it's got this big old bow tie shape here, and then it just goes like that. And it's over. So it's out and then done. And check out that shape, which I can get away with. Like, that's a cool shape. Here, up here, I'm gonna, like, up here is for my cool shapes. Here's a cool shape. You guys like that shape? I like that shape. I can get away with that for the end of my thumb in a flat shape. So the thumb goes 3D as well, like just like what we're doing with these with the finger. You know, the thumb you can 3D it. And the end is kind of round. The side plane of the thumb is a little bit like this. It goes like this and up, and then it drops down. It goes like this, drops down. Top plane of the thumb is a little bit like that, and then it comes out and around.
Oh my god, why did that land on me? Please don't do that. Oh my god. Sorry.
What was it?
It was a huge roach, like, or something. It was just...
Wow. Exciting.
This is not fair.
Wow. On the palm side of the hand, okay. On the palm side of the hand, first off, the thumb overlaps, and what's going on is there's this muscle, and it connects from here to the center, and it goes like this, and it really connects all the way around like this. It connects to, there's a tendon in here. And this muscle there's more than one muscle in there, but the basic shape is like a teardrop right in here. And it sits like that. And then there's another one right here, and it connects down this way. So there's these two teardrop shapes right in there. And then across this part of your hand right here, there's this set of pads on the bottom of each knuckle. And it's kind of like a dog hand. You can see the pad on a dog paw. We have like pads in there. And so you get these lines that go like this, and you get lines that go like this, and they follow out that way, and they come across this way. They go over like that. So you can look for these lines, and you can follow them. Then there's this rhythm on the underside of the knuckles with lines like that. And on the backside, there's a muscle right here. It connects from there to here. Okay, so let's draw some hands. We've been through, that's a lot of info, and let's draw some hands. Let's look for some hand gestures. So can you guys come up with like a story here? Can I like land you on a story? We're in something. Okay. So this is what we're here for, right? We're here to like get a drawing off the ground. So drawing fancy hands is like not that big of a deal. Being able to get like, what's going on here? Like the one person is being accused of something, the other person is like a bystander. So someone's like, you stole my bag, and the other guy's like, I didn't do anything, and the other one's like, what is it? What's going on? So you have like a little story getting started, okay? And the hands are playing a vital role. So a lot of times people who are just learning how to draw do a lot of drawings of like people with their hands in their pockets. You know what I mean? Or you're standing with a hand behind you. There's a lot of like people with their hands behind them, which is an effective gesture. But is it really your story? You know what I mean? So okay, so we're practicing flat shapes. We're using flat shapes to establish the gesture part of our drawing. We're getting going, okay? Now let's take a hand, like here's a hand, and let's start to apply some of what we know. Okay, so one of the things that we know about the hand is that once we start moving away from a flat shape, there's a move. David Finch is a comic book artist, tons of YouTube videos, and I've watched him for years. He has this move that he does. I want to show you. He goes like this. He's got like, we'll start out with a flat shape. Say we've got a flat shape right there for the hand, and you guys all know what I'm talking about right there. And he'll go like this. For the fingers, to get the fingers right, he'll go like one is going to connect there, another is going to connect there, another is going to connect there, and another is going to connect there. Okay? When he draws the fingers, he does these lines. He goes 1, 2, 3. Okay? So it's 1, 2, 3. 1, see how I'm drawing these lines? 2, 3. 1, 2, and the other one is overlapped. Okay? Then he goes like this. 1, 2, 3. And then he'll go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, the other one is hidden, and the other one is hidden. So it's his shape like this. And at first you look at it and you're like, it doesn't really look very good. Then he'll do this, okay? He'll take that and then he'll go like this. And it turns out pretty all right, and it's pretty fast, right? So it's kind of a hack. Obviously, this part of the hand also thickens. Anyway, so here, one of the things that we know is that the palm of the hand kind of goes like that, right? And we know that there's a kind of a thickness on the palm of the hand. And that the fingers end in a rhythm like that. We know that there's a muscle right here on the thumb like this. That there's another muscle over here that'll affect the contour like that. we know that the lower part of the finger, that this part of the hand is lower than the top. There's a pad here. Another muscle there. This finger, it looks like I would be seeing these fingers in side plane. If I'm really trying to like get something like this to be good, like once I've got to here, what I would do is I would do a general lightening of the entire thing. So these side planes here, as you come across, here's a wrinkle here for sure. And there would be like another wrinkle right there. And I'm using those wrinkles as cross contours. Okay, if the light is coming like from this way, like these would be side planes, and they would be gradually becoming, because the bottom of the finger is kind of rounded, so it's a gradation into the top plane there. This pad that sits on here, it's rounded. I'm looking for lines that cross the contour and show the roundness of it. I might shade the side plane of it and then gradually turn into the upper plane of it. The thumb, I'm going to put a little cross contour there, and I want to show this as side plane, but gradually shading, gradually. That's that part of the diagram we were talking about earlier. There's a little bit of a muscle here. I'm going to gradually turn up this way. So you see how I'm stopping abruptly there and gradually turning upwards. And here I'm going to stop abruptly, but gradually gradate upwards. So this hand, I'm gonna look to like solve the easiest stuff first. Like that already helps. The hand is a wedge, like that. I'm looking to have the thumb come off it. The thumb only has two parts. I've really grown it. It's a giant hand. And then it's likely that there would be okay, so there's this, looking into the thumb like this, there's a couple of things. One of them is there's this muscle right here underneath. And so I'm going to show the overlap of this under muscle. And then there's this muscle on the top that we had talked about, which goes this way. And so I want to show that. In side plane, the thumb sits. This thumb, like if you look at your hand like this, the thumb is not flat with the fingers like that. It's like arched this way, right? So like I'll use the thumbnail to show that. It's like that. I feel like it's just too long, too big. is terrible. Sorry, guys. I'm really crapping out on this hand. Here's a thing that I would like to show you, but I'm failing at. In side plane, so you have your hand like this. And draw a hand going this way. I'll draw it going this way so I don't interfere with that. Okay, so to take this hand and send it off this way, I'm going to start to augment the shape. Here's the thumb side. I gotta decide on a finger gesture. In general, I know that the fingers go like that, like they're going to end in an arc, like that this is an arc and that's an arc. I'm like search for where is that arc, and then take the fingers out to it. Looking for the connection points, like here's one, there's one, there's one, and there's one. All right, so I want to go 1, 2, 3, and then draw the bottoms. Okay, here's the next one. And here's the next one. Oh shoot, I'm so sorry. Have I run out of time here? I have. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. That's it.